All right, on to more fun things.
More fun games.
I have a game for you
Oh,
today.
fuck yeah, let's play some games. This is added bonus. Welcome. We are the Chrome Domes. I am Bryn. This is Matt. And today we are going to be reviewing the 6-piece Melburnian pub rock band, Smith Street Band.
6-piece, hey? Bloody hell. I had a bet with Tony they were 7-piece. Just to refrain, I have not done any research on the band itself, right? So, I mean, I'm just going to take your word for it. 6? You could have told me 20 and I'd be like, okay, whatever. I mean,
yeah. Everyone's got a harmony.
I mean, yeah, there's a bit of redundancy there, but whatever.
Yeah,
whatever,
true.
I'll roll with it. Anyway, so Jess, we got to hear about Jess.
Jess is the guitarist and backing who also did the cover, who is an artist in her own right, separate from the band. It's a pretty cool cover.
And you got
it's a bit
Will
different.
Wagner is the only guy I know.
Will Wagner, who's also brought out his own album this year, which is called Spiraling, which we'll probably touch on later. And then we got pretty much the three main writers being Lee, Matt, and Michael, or Fitzy. Then we got Lucy, who's also the backing keyboard, percussions, and does the acoustic guitar.
Which one's the drummer?
The drummer is Fitzy.
Oh, I was really hoping you'd say Matt.
Oh, wait, it is Matt.
Hells yeah.
Matt is the drummer. Sorry,
MVP.
Fitzy is the bass.
MVP on the record.
He is MVP. I was going to talk about that. Which one is it that is just heavy with the drums? Oh, End of the World.
Yeah, might as well lead in. So when you're listening to the album, right, like, for me, whenever I listen to it, I'm starting to notice a trend when I listen to the new music. There's always that trepidation on that first listen. It's like, well, what the fuck's Bryn got me in for here?
Yeah.
And you always worry. And like, we listened to the first track, and the first track was good. And I'm like, okay, I'm pretty encouraged by this, but gee, his voice.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh goodness.
Oh goodness, yes. He is he'd probably say below average in the singing, but it works. I find it works. It's pretty good. It gives encouragement to people like me who can't sing, and I can sing along with him.
He can kind of hold a tune. I actually don't think it's hitting the notes or anything that sort of gets under my skin. I think there's like a natural shame and embarrassment to being part of your own nationality, and he sounds distinctly Aussie.
Australian.
Right?
I don't have a problem with Australians, this kind of singing. Yeah, we have a shit accent. I will admit that Australians have a pretty bad accent, especially when it's full put on. But in rock and roll, I think it works very well because it's not supposed to be perfect and crisp. There's always this broken, jagged, edgy sound to any sort of rock and roll.
Whilst he can be a bit raspy, like there's a twang to it that just leaves me feeling like, man, I wish they'd chosen a different singer. And so like the energy he gives is great. Like I actually think the energy he gives to the tracks is actually pretty good, and he can be fairly emotive at times.
I think there's a bunch of great lyrics and lines in it where you just go, it's great for his voice, especially when you can yell a little bit at in certain parts, especially like End of the World.
See, I'm probably going to disagree on some of that too, because like this is the thing too, listening to the album, the story of my listen is that like for every good line, there was another line that I cringed at, right? And it's frustrating when like clearly they have writing capacity. They can make fairly interesting song structures. I mean, God is Dead's the classic example. It's such a nice building up song. Sounds like Waltzing Matilda, but like brought forward to modern era and then put into like this thumping emotive tale of how a person is like off life, basically, to put it. That was like, I like that song, but then for every good line that's there, you get lines that I really dislike. For instance, I don't like the idea of someone yelling chicken shit at the top of his lungs. I don't like the idea of like, is it Lucy or Susie? Who cares? Lucy knows I'm a dickhead. Lucy knows me too well, right? And I can't help but put the voice on when I say the lyrics because like it sounds really awful, but I just want to make fun of it.
I don't think you give justification to his singing, but you give a bit of crap.
I don't actually think it's crap. I think there's just a quality to it that I dislike. So I'm willing to say that that's just entirely a subjective thing. Like, it's something I don't like, but I suspect there are plenty of people who do. So
me in particular, I loved it. I thought it was pretty cool. At least I get to sing along with it. And there are fun lines where you get to sing and be shit, and it's fine.
Okay. That's what I mean by like stories and impressions. So like when you're listening to it, like for me, I had trepidation, and then after the first song I was excited, and then that excitement sort of got chipped away at as I was listening to the entirety of the album. So that's my journey in a nutshell, listening to it, and it was pretty consistent the whole way through. Okay. What about for you?
I enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. It was up and down at different points, obviously, because you changing and chopping. Sometimes the songs blended very well between one to the other, and then other times it just sort of just stopped, and then it just came into this new sound that they were trying to do. I was like, I could deal with it, but we'll get to the point of the meanings behind the songs maybe a bit later.
We'll get that towards the end. Right now, I want to just purely deal with my experience with it, because I think it's actually important to consider that like any art that's made is not solely made by the artist. It's a subjective link between the artist and the individual digesting it, and that's actually where that lies. So if you make something, it's the way that I engage with it and the harmony between the two that is in some essence the art. And right now I'm purely willing to focus on how I've engaged with it.
So you ain't taking into the singing. What about when the harmonies come
Female
in?
backing harmonies are great. The drums throughout the album, I think, are excellent.
Yep.
I
Top
think,
notch.
to be honest, the drums are the best thing on the album.
Won't lie, they are definitely up top with it.
Because I think one of the down points for the album, I think generally is, in some instances, the guitar work blends together in some sameness, but the song structure, which ends up being accentuated by the drum passages, are just dynamic and interesting, and I find myself just listening to the drums. That's generally where my attention's drawn, and I'm a guitarist, and I usually shit on the drummer when we're at band practice, right? Like, it's in terms of the hierarchy, the singer thinks they're at the top, the lead guitarist is second, rhythm guitarist third,
and no one wants
fourth,
to fuck the...
and then the bassist doesn't even get a mention. So that's usually how
no
it
one
works.
fucks the bass, and everyone kind of just avoids the drummer.
I mean, the drummer's on their own plane of existence, right? Because they're the only one that really doesn't have to worry about pitch. They might argue otherwise, but I think they're joking. But the drummer
Well, there's
great.
a difference between working all four limbs compared to just a few fingers.
I have total respect for him, right? And like I said, Matt...
I would like to count how many times in each podcast you like to tell, and as a guitarist...
I don't think I do it as much as I think you're insinuating, my friend. But like, I know where I stand, and if I'm not the lead vocalist, I know I'm second on that tree.
Fair enough.
But no, the drums are amazing. So there are a lot of times, I think the best case in point, funnily enough, is the intro track, God is Dead. So the drums are nice and reserved, and then there's a nice little drum roll leading into the second verse, and then towards the end where it's swelling and, you know, bride at the wedding, the corpse at the funeral, and the drummer's just like hammering
smashing
tongs. Great.
Yep.
And that song is actually just really good. I'd listen to that again. That's a great song. God is Dead.
Any other songs that are your faves?
Oh, yeah. I had liked End of the World.
Yeah, End of the World.
Referencing it. And I particularly liked the last song, funnily enough.
Don't Waste Your Anger.
Yeah, Don't Waste Your Anger. I have to always concede that I like a song if I find myself singing it whilst I'm not listening to it.
True.
And I was walking around Dan Murphy's the other day.
Just humming it?
No, annoying Tony with it. I was just like, don't waste your anger. And she's like, why are you telling me this? Don't waste your anger on me. But I'm not angry.
I will be soon, Matthew.
I will be soon.
I will be soon. Well, don't waste your anger on me.
So I thought they were really, really good tracks. Well, what about you? I'm guessing I know that
I enjoyed it, but Big Smoke reminded me a lot of Gaslight Anthem. And that's the one where between Big Smoke and I Still Dream About You, which are the two singles, that's that smooth transition between the two that I was quite happy with.
Would you like to know what I put down as one of my notes for Big Smoke?
Ooh, can I guess?
Yeah, go for it.
Nah, can't guess.
Very skippable.
Very skippable.
It's like every time it comes on, my finger just like
reaches.
It starts twitching, and I just want to push that button.
Wow, you did not like this album that much.
No, I'm overplaying it.
You over? How many times you listen to it?
Probably 8 times.
Yeah. Oh, so it's a high number.
Yeah. And it was once a day, and then I listened to it twice today, funnily enough, in terms of just getting my notes together, actually. And I think the thing that's important to take away from this is that it's not... I have to like take stock of what my feelings are towards it, because like it's easy enough to listen to, but I think after listening to the intro track, I had my expectations way up.
Yep.
And I don't think it ever really got back there, and I think it's typified by some decisions that are made throughout the album that just don't sit well with me. So I think maybe it's like they were 3 or 4 good decisions away from having this be excellent, but because they didn't, it feels like it didn't get there. So like, for example, I don't like the singer's voice. It's a tough one to listen to a singer you don't like listening to. The song structure can be bland at times, and I think the most criminal one, 3, is take, for example, the song Dirty Walker.
Dirty Water.
Dirty Walker. Yeah, you're a dirty walker.
Yeah, Dirty Water is my skip.
The song like labors through the chorus. I've fallen out of love with people. And the problem I have with the track is that there are parts of that track I actually quite like. And then there's a track later on in the album called It's Okay.
Yep.
Right? That's the acoustic one.
If you cannot hear or have not heard, there is background music. So
he sounds like he's outside recording.
So yeah, because the album was recorded in the rural regional area of Victoria in Fitzy's Bush Bash that he likes to call
Matt MVP.
Yeah. No, that's not Matt MVP. That's Michael, Matt.
Oh, whatever. No, I don't care about that.
And no, you don't care about them. But anyway, that's where they had it out there. They were doing all their recording, and as you can probably hear in the background, this one was done outside. Yeah. With the only other sounds you can hear is literally birds chirping in the background.
And the occasional car.
Did not hear
Listen to that track. I think there is like the sound of what sounds like tires. But the point I was trying to make with Dirty Water, right, is I feel like that song should have been the one that was stripped back to an acoustic. Imagine that one with just him and acoustic, subtle tones and not much else. Like, strip it back. That song might have been all right without that laboursome chorus as well. Because, like, as I've got there, like, this song has really, really good parts. And then that chorus is just an absolute
killer,
wet fish. Yeah. And by comparison, you know, It's Okay. You know what my single word note is? Next.
Next to It's Okay.
Oh, I really don't like that song.
Really don't like it. I was happy to finally hear once again an acoustic guitar song.
Me too. I just think they did it on the wrong track.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I get that. But what would you do if Dirty Water was the acoustic? What would you do for It's Okay?
Just not have it on the album.
Okay, just drop it.
The problem I have with... I don't even know what my problem with It's Okay is, hey. On the surface, I actually think it is relatively well written. It's probably just a little bit too... It's probably just a bit too sappy for my liking.
Heaven 11.
Oh, Heaven 11. Oh, it's an alright track. It builds nice. The thing that...
Many bursts pull back and then back into it.
Well, here's the problem, right? And this is another case too where, like, if you looked at this song and took the first 2/3 of it, you'd go, this song's pretty good. And yeah, absolutely. But then the last third just goes on and on and on and on and on. It drags on. And I don't know when an artist should have a song just play out forever and ever. I mean, you look at like Hey Jude, and the end of that song is so long, but it's amazing, right? And everyone's, you know, da na 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 all the time, and it doesn't matter. They play it 32 times, and it's cool. Whereas this feels like it's laboring on. I think it's because there's a lack of... I perceive there to be a lack of clear direction in what the music is trying to be at some core level that I find difficult to express.
Yeah.
And I think that's the prevailing feeling I have across the album. It's good, but like I feel like a couple other decisions and it could have been like really, really excellent in my subjective opinion. Because I'm happy that you liked it, and there's lots to like on this album.
Yeah, there's a lot of great things. I mean, Profiteer and I kind of enjoyed the very first line. Everything's fucked.
Yeah.
Everything's okay. Everyone sucks. Like, there are fun lines in this whole album throughout.
It's funny you say that.
Throughout, right? Like nothing, but there's also good ones. Okay, so in The End of the World, 2 of my favorite lines.
Yeah.
One being what you would say, oh, that's an inspiring or kind of what you want to say is like, nothing gets better, so enjoy what you have.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, that's could almost put next to...
You're gonna get angry and you're gonna get sad.
And then my favorite part of that song being see the city from a different point of view.
Yeah. Well, it's funny too because like the song that I think that has the best lyrics is also the song I hate the most on the album.
Dirty Water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He talks about kids getting lost in culture wars, and I'm like, fuck yeah, this is interesting to me. And then I've fallen out of love with people, and I'm like, oh, I've fallen out of love with the song.
Yeah, that end does drag
and,
out with that line of...
And take the... Lucy knows I am a dickhead. Lucy knows me too well. Like the previous line, I actually think has some clever interest to it because it hints at things without saying them explicitly. Like we did the dumb thing at the scary motel, right?
Yeah, trying to figure out what that is.
Yeah, so I mean, it insinuates a couple of things, but it never ever says it. And
well, you may find reference in other songs like running off to go get high.
Yeah, well, that's at the very... I don't know what song that is, but for some reason I was reminded of God Is Dead, the very first line.
Yeah. I think it is in there where you run.
Sobriety's good, but so's being high. I could sing a lot of the album, funnily enough. When I was doing my notes this morning, I found myself singing along to it. So I'm like...
So it almost caught your butt. Like you do enjoy it.
There are aspects that I enjoy. I don't know who made up the analogy, but it's like, this is a grand cake that I want to eat. But for some reason, someone's dropped like a little nugget of poop on it. Do you eat the cake? Do you eat around it?
Or do you cut around? Yeah.
Like there might have been albums in the past where it wasn't on a cake, right? It might have been like, I don't know, steamed carrots or something, right? Something that you wouldn't be inclined to eat with alacrity, right? But I don't know. For some reason, I just felt like this was a miss for me, but I might have been giving it expectations that weren't fair.
Look, yeah, I guess the first song really hyped you, and then it just dropped off. And that sucks because I did enjoy this. I thought this was probably one of the
better albums.
But that's great. I liked it. You didn't like it all that much.
You might still be surprised by my score. Like I honestly think I'm more frustrated by it than I think it's objectively bad.
Yep.
And I'm expressing all the bad, but I think it is important to stress the good. There are a lot of good song ideas in here. For every bad lyric, there is a good lyric that is interesting and clever. His singing is at its best when it's subtle or when it's screamy.
Yep.
Not in between, but on those two extreme ends, he's actually quite listenable. There are the occasional interesting guitar riffs to try and mix it up. Like it might be the profiteering.
Yeah.
Like that's great.
I'm actually happy to have an album that's not heavily depending on the guitar for once.
For what do you mean for once? I mean, we did Busta Rhymes, mate.
So that's all bass machine,
yeah,
drum machine.
Actually, I must admit, I heard Look Over Your Shoulder when we were at the car wash the other day, and
you were just shaking.
Yeah, cold sweat going down my big bald head.
No.
Anyway, beside the point. I felt like it was more interesting to tell you my journey on the album. It's like I'm a conflicted mess on it. And I think that's what's coming out.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm pretty happy you enjoyed it. And I've read up that apparently it's doing particularly well. And I'm happy for them. It's more interesting than your sort of generic indie music, right? So like there is flavor and talent there. And maybe that's where some of the frustration is coming from. Because I didn't choose every design choice that I would have wanted, right? Like it's a totally guilty thing. But I have to listen to it. So
you did.
What about you? Like closing thoughts before we move on to anything else?
Oh, I enjoyed the journey. I wasn't. Yes, Dirty Water. I could definitely.
Dirty Walker.
Dirty Water. I could definitely do a dirty walk on.
Yeah. Losing
it was a bit of it was a great crescendo, I thought.
Yeah, it was, but man, it was a struggle. Oh no, actually, that had an interesting. I liked the start of that song. It's like. I'm the only living boy in town. Like that's that song, right? I actually quite liked it up until it sort of gets to about midway through, and then his voice.
Yeah, so if we take the voice out of it and hand it to another person, then you probably may like it a little bit better.
It might get an extra 1.5 on the marks, yeah.
If to really bring out the story behind the album, we don't know if it was before, a couple of songs were before, or if it was all after, but the lead singer, Will, did try to commit suicide early last year, in his backyard. And I don't know how he tried to do it, but it was a fail. From that moment, he has said every day has been a blessing, and he never knew it would have produced this album, which just turns out to be one of their biggest albums. He has had a pretty rough breakup, so you would find that in a lot of the Lucy Knows Who I Am I'm a dickhead.
Once that was brought to my attention, you can definitely see that influence in some of the songs on the album. And I would say generally the album is
based around his turmoil and his mental health.
Yeah, there are flavors of that, absolutely.
And after I read that, and I went back and I listened to it, and everything sort of just kind of moved along. I had to take more notes. One being losing it sound to me like the darkness within the soul, and he's battling of addiction.
Yep.
Profiteering is very much struggling with mental health, with a quick look at what the thoughts may be within his own head.
Well, I mean, God is Dead as well is basically him suffering with, it sounds like nihilistic thoughts.
Or you could take the part in it, he's trying to turn it around at the start. You're like, I'm trying my hardest with tragedy is comedy if you can get through it, which I thought was a great line.
The problem is in that context, it starts to sound sadder and like it's only if you get through it, and that's not guaranteed.
That's never guaranteed, and especially with mental health is obviously when you're beating yourself down to a point of committing suicide, you just think everyone's better off without you, and that's a horrible position to be in. That's what kind of turned me around to liking the album a little bit more, is that he's actually willing to express nearly a whole album on this feelings of his own fuck-ups and dealing with the emotions that come with it, and just almost to a point of beating himself into the fucking ground. It's just unfortunate there wasn't a song that really turned everything around at the end.
From my perspective, it's such a tough one, and we can probably have a conversation about this on a separate podcast just between us about what counts as part of the art, right?
Yeah.
So you've expressed that your experience with the music has changed as a result of understanding more because
I wanted to understand what was his meaning behind it, because I was reading, it's like, what are you trying to say through these lines?
This is a broader discussion to have, right? So I tend to be more of the opinion, or at least I go into listening to music or taking in art as though the artist was just the conduit through which the art came. The actual important person in the experience of the art is you. And so for me, it's always a case of how do I apply the art to whatever my subjective experience is. And so for me, learning that, whilst I'm glad that he seems to be getting onto a better track, it didn't change my opinions of the album.
I get that. I understand.
Cool.
I think it was great. I love a bunch of lyrics, even if there was chicken shits and added at the end of it that ruined it for certain people. It did not ruin it for me.
The chicken shit didn't ruin the cake.
I strongly prefer albums with where the drums are not being drowned out by everything else. That was a good flavor change and a bit of sweetness to my ears to be able to finally hear, because that's what I always listen out for, is the drums. I always listen out for drums.
Yeah, I must admit, great. Like when I'm listening to music, I'm usually listening to how the song is structured, and then I generally get pulled to whatever the dominant force is at that particular point in time. And then on recurring listens, you listen to the other parts to see how it all mixes together. I mean, I found myself going to the drums all the time.
Yeah.
This particular one.
Well, it wasn't hard for it to be brought to the front of the of attention.
Would you like to give it a score?
No.
Okay. Would you like to hear mine?
Sure.
Would you like to have a guess based on
6?
Yeah, 6 out of 10. You're correct.
No, thank you.
And with that, I'm probably never going to listen to that album again.
I will most definitely listen to that album again. I'm just going to end this with, if you are struggling with mental health, Beyond Blue, Lifeline, suicide prevention, reach out.
Yeah, please do.
Please do.
All right, on to more fun things.
Games.
I have a game for you today.
Oh, fuck yeah, let's play some games. This is added bonus.
This is true content, Bryn.
Woo!
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 5 words. Each word represents an album, but you don't know what the album is. That will be the album we listen to.
Well, it is okay. So it's albums I don't know.
No. So I'm literally just going to give you one word. You have to choose between the words that I give you, and that'll correspond to what the album's going to be. So you get to pick your own destiny, Bryn. You get to choose your fate.
5 words.
Would you like to hear the words?
5 choices.
You ready?
5 albums.
You ready? Aussie, horror, history, cagey, or sleepy. What one would you like? Oh, man. And the thing is I've had so much fun just like mucking around with what it's going to be. So you're being strung along here a little bit.
Most definitely is. So we got Aussie, horror,
history,
cagey, and sleepy.
What one would you like?
I'll go horror.
I was kind of hoping you'd go horror.
Yeah.
So we're going to be listening to, the artist is Clipping, and the album is called Visions of Bodies Being Burned. We're in for a fucking ride, my friend.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you know this one?
Oh, no.
Where'd you get this one from?
Best left unsaid. What I would say is I've listened to the intro track. You're going to get your money's worth this week.
Oh, fuck yeah. I can't wait.
All
right. We are CDRs. I'm Bryn and Horrible Matt.
Yep.
Horror Matt signing out. Later, motherfuckers.
See you next week.